The crystalline dome stretched endlessly above, reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, 17 species gathered in their assigned seats. Each delegation sat in pods that floated gently around the central speaking platform. The air hummed with translation devices, turning every language into something understandable. Captain He-jin stood at the podium, her crisp uniform bearing the insignia of Earth's United Forces. Behind her, 5 Marines stood at attention in full combat armor. Their helmets covered their faces completely. Among them, Corporal Taesung remained perfectly still, his rifle held across his chest. "Honored council members," He-jin began, her voice steady. "Humanity has served as provisional members for 15 years. We have followed every protocol. We have contributed to 3 peacekeeping missions. We have shared our technology and resources. Today, we formally request full membership status." A sound rippled through the chamber. It took He-jin a moment to recognize it. Laughter. The alien delegates were laughing. Ambassador Velthier rose from his pod, his reptilian scales catching the light. He was tall, perhaps 8 feet, with eyes that seemed to mock everything they saw. "Full membership?" he said, his voice dripping with amusement. "You've been here 15 years, and you still don't understand why you'll never be equals." Ji Woo, the young diplomat standing beside He-jin, tensed. His hand twitched toward his tablet, but He-jin gave him a subtle gesture to wait. "Please, Ambassador," He-jin said calmly. "Share your concerns. We are here to address them." Velthier's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. He gestured, and a holographic display filled the center of the chamber. Images began to play. Humans fighting. Humans screaming. Humans in war. The footage showed Earth's history of conflicts, brutality, violence. "This," Velthier announced to the chamber, "is what humanity calls civilization. While we were building interstellar trade networks, they were killing each other over invisible lines on their planet. While we were composing symphonies that resonate across dimensions, they were screaming at each other in rage." More laughter from the council. A delegate from the insectoid hive clicked its mandibles in what their species considered mockery. Another species, beings of pure energy contained in crystalline bodies, pulsed with colors that their translation software labeled as contempt. "Humans are emotional," continued Velthier, pacing now, enjoying his audience. "They cannot control themselves. They feel too much. Anger, hate, sadness, these things rule them. How can we trust a species that acts on feeling rather than logic?" He-jin's jaw tightened, but her voice remained level. "Every species has emotions, Ambassador. The question is what we do with them." "Indeed." Velthier spun toward her. "And humans do terrible things with theirs. You rage. You break. You are unstable." He looked around the chamber. "How many wars on their planet?" "Thousands." "How many on ours?" "Perhaps a dozen in our entire recorded history. They are children playing with weapons they cannot control." High Chancellor Crix, the supreme authority of the council, leaned forward in the highest pod. The insectoid leader's compound eyes reflected the light in strange patterns. When Crix spoke, the chamber fell silent. "The ambassador raises valid concerns." Crix's translated voice buzzed. "Humanity's emotional volatility is documented. Their history suggests a species prone to violence when provoked. Before granting full membership, we must ensure they can control their nature." Ji Woo whispered urgently to He-jin, but she shook her head. Behind them, the 5 Marines hadn't moved. Taesung's breathing was so controlled, so quiet, that his armor's systems barely registered it. "What would you have us do?" He-jin asked. Crix's mandibles clicked together in thought. "A demonstration. We have testing protocols for species seeking advancement. You will undergo the crisis simulation. You will face scenarios designed to provoke emotional response. If your people can maintain control, we will reconsider." "AT. AT. AT." And if we refuse? Heijin asked, though she already knew the answer. Then humanity remains provisional indefinitely, Crick said simply. Or withdraws from the council entirely. Velthir was barely containing his satisfaction. The simulation will reveal what you truly are beneath that thin veneer of civilization. When pushed, when threatened, humans always return to rage. It's in your nature. You cannot help it. Heijin looked back at her marines. Tae-sung met her gaze through his helmet's visor, though she couldn't see his eyes. He gave the smallest nod. She turned back to the council. We accept your test, she said. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Some species seemed surprised. Others appeared eager to watch what they assumed would be humanity's failure. Excellent, Crick said. You will be transported to our proving station. The simulation will commence in 48 hours. Choose your team wisely, Captain. As the council session ended and the various pods began to drift away, Velthir approached the human delegation. Up close, he was even more imposing, towering over Heijin. I almost pity you, he said quietly, so only the humans could hear. Your species has such potential, but you're slaves to your feelings. When the simulation breaks you, and it will try to remember that we gave you a chance. We won't need your pity, Ambassador, Heijin replied. Velthir's eyes glittered. We shall see. I've watched your kind for years, Captain. I've seen how you react when your people are threatened. How you lash out when you're afraid. The simulation will find your breaking point. Every species has one. Yours is just lower than most. He walked away, his scales shimmering under the dome's light. Jiwoo moved closer to Heijin. Captain, this is insane. The test is designed to make us fail. They've already decided. I know, Heijin cut him off. But we don't have a choice. Humanity needs this seat on the council. We need the trade agreements, the protection treaties, access to their medical technology. Without it, we're alone out here. But if we fail, we won't, said a quiet voice. Everyone turned. Tae-sung had spoken. In the 3 years Heijin had commanded him, she'd rarely heard him say more than a handful of words. Corporal? She asked. Through the helmet, his voice was calm, almost gentle. We won't fail, Captain. We'll show them what humans really are. Another Marine, Lieutenant Suah, shifted her weight. Permission to speak freely, sir. Granted. I want to tear that smug lizard's throat out, Suah said, her voice tight with anger. I know, Heijin said. But that's exactly what they expect. They think we're animals that can't control ourselves. We prove them wrong by staying in control. Specialist Dong Hyun, the team's tech expert, spoke up. Captain, I've been analyzing the Council's files on their testing protocols. These simulations are brutal. They're designed to trigger fear, anger, protective instincts. Species have failed and lost their membership bids because they couldn't handle the psychological pressure. Then we'll be the first to pass, Heijin said. As they left the chamber and walked through the station's corridors back to their ship, Jiwoo fell into step beside Tae-sung. Corporal, Jiwoo said quietly. Can I ask you something? Tae-sung didn't look at him. Just kept walking, with that same measured pace. Yes, sir. How do you do it? Stay so calm when they insult us like that? For a long moment, Tae-sung didn't answer. Then, so quietly, Jiwoo almost missed it. He said, Who said I was calm? Jiwoo blinked, confused. But before he could ask what that meant, they'd reached the docking bay. Their ship waited, small and functional compared to the elegant vessels of other species. Inside, Heijin gathered her team. 48 hours, she said. We train, we prepare, and we show the Council that humanity deserves respect. She paused, meeting each person's eyes. They think we're controlled by our emotions. Let's prove that we control them instead. As the ship detached and moved away from the council station, Tae-sung stood in the cargo bay, still in full armor, still wearing his helmet. Through the viewport, he could see the crystalline dome growing smaller. His hands, hidden inside his armored gloves, were shaking. The proving station hung in space like a metal moon. Ships from across the galaxy docked at its ports, bringing delegates eager to watch humanity's test. Word had spread quickly. The emotional humans, the violent primitives, were about to be broken. Heejin stood with her team in the preparation room. 6 Marines total, including herself. Each checked their gear with practiced efficiency. The weapons were modified for the simulation they would register hits on holographic enemies, but couldn't harm real people. Safety protocols, the council had assured them. Equipment check. Heijin ordered. Weapons green, Sua reported. Systems operational. Dong-hyun confirmed, his fingers dancing across a tablet. Ensign Bo-ra, the youngest of the group at 22, fumbled with her helmet. Her hands trembled slightly. This was her first major assignment. Tae-sung stepped over to her. Without a word, he helped her secure the seal. Through their helmet's internal comm, he spoke quietly. Breathe. Just like training. I'm scared, Bo-ra admitted. Good, Tae-sung said. Fear keeps you alert. Just don't let it control you. Overseer Krath, a 4-armed alien with gray skin and too many eyes, entered the room. The council is assembled. Observation deck is at capacity. Your simulation begins in 5 minutes. Understood, Heijin said. Krath's expression was hard to read, but something in his posture suggested amusement. I've run these tests for 40 years. Watched over 60 species try to prove themselves. You should know only 12 have passed. We'll be the 13th, Sua said. Perhaps, Krath said, his voice neutral. The scenario is simple. You will enter a crashed colony ship. 15 colonists are trapped inside. Enemy combatants hold them hostage. Extract the colonists. Minimize casualties. Time limit is 30 minutes. He paused. Oh, and try not to lose your tempers. The council is watching for that specifically. After Krath left, Dong-hyun pulled up the ship's schematics on his tablet. Standard, colony vessel. 3 decks. If they're following traditional hostage scenarios, the civilians will be in the cargo bay. Trap points? Heejin asked. Here, here, and here. Dong-hyun indicated 3 choke points. Perfect ambush positions. We go slow, Heejin decided. Methodical. We clear room by room. No rushing, no matter what we hear. Understood? 5 voices confirmed in unison. The simulation chamber was massive, easily the size of a football field. Holographic projectors lined every surface, capable of creating entire environments. As the Marines entered, the world transformed around them. Suddenly, they stood on a rocky plain under a purple sky. 200 meters ahead, a colony ship lay broken, smoke rising from its hull. In the observation deck above, hundreds of aliens watched. Velthir sat in the front row, leaning forward eagerly. Beside him, Crix remained still, compound eyes fixed on the humans below. Begin, Krath's voice announced. The team moved forward in a standard tactical formation. Tae-sung took point, his rifle sweeping left and right. Sua covered the rear. They reached the ship's damaged airlock without incident. Too quiet, Sua muttered. Stay focused, Heejin said. Inside the ship, emergency lights flickered. The corridors were tight, claustrophobic, perfect for an ambush. They cleared the first deck, methodically. Empty crew quarters, abandoned medical bay. Then they heard it. Screaming. A woman's voice, high and terrified, echoed through the ship's comm system. Please, they're going to kill us. Help. Bo-ra started forward instinctively. Tae-sung's hand on her shoulder stopped her. It's bait, he said quietly. But if they're really, Bo-ra began. We stick to the plan, Heejin ordered, though her jaw was tight. They descended to the second deck. The screaming continued, interspersed with sounds of violence. Dong-hyun's tablet beeped. I'm picking up life signs. Cargo bay. As expected. 15 civilians. 8 hostiles. Weapons? Heijin asked. Energy signatures consistent with plasma rifles. They approached the cargo bay. The doors were sealed. Through a viewport, they could see the colonists, holographic but incredibly realistic, huddled in the center. 8 armed figures surrounded them, weapons pointed at the civilians. Sua Dong-hyun. Breach point Alpha, Heijin commanded. Taesung, Bo-ra, with me on Beta. We go on my mark. Aim for disabling shots only. 3, 2, 1. The doors blew open simultaneously from 2 sides. The Marines moved with practiced precision. Taesung's first shot took down a hostile before the enemy could turn. Sua dropped 2 more in rapid succession. It was smooth. Professional. Perfect. Too perfect. In the observation deck, Krath smiled. His hand moved across his control panel. Suddenly, the holographic enemies changed. They grew larger, faster, stronger. The remaining 5 hostiles began firing with accuracy that shouldn't have been possible. The difficulty had jumped exponentially. What the Dong-hyun dove for cover as plasma bolts seared past his head. Adapt! Heijin shouted. The team scattered, using the cargo containers for protection. The colonists screamed in terror. One of the holographic hostiles grabbed a young boy, putting a weapon to his head. Stand down or the child dies, the hologram shouted in perfect English. Bo-ra's breathing accelerated. Her rifle wavered. Hold position, Heijin ordered. But Krath wasn't done. The scenario shifted again. The holographic child's face changed, becoming younger. The boy started crying, calling for his mother. The detail was horrifying, tears on his face, terror in his eyes. Please don't let them hurt me, the child whimpered. In the observation deck, Velthir leaned toward Crix. Watch. This is where they break. When children are threatened, humans lose all rationality. Sua's hands tightened on her rifle. Her heart rate spiked. She could feel rage building in her chest. Hot and demanding. Every instinct screamed at her to charge forward, to destroy the thing threatening that child, even though she knew it wasn't real. Permission to engage, she said through gritted teeth. Denied, Heijin said. Dong-hyun, can you disrupt their targeting systems? Working on it. Dong-hyun's fingers flew across his tablet, even as he stayed pinned behind cover. Taesung hadn't moved. His rifle remained steady, pointed at the hostile holding the child. His breathing was controlled, measured. The entire chamber could have been on fire around him, and he would have remained just as still. Taesung, Heijin said quietly. You have the shot? Yes, Captain. Can you take it without hitting the civilian? A pause. Then, yes. On my mark. Dong-hyun, disruption? 5 seconds. Sua, when I give the word, suppressing fire. Everyone else, be ready to move on the remaining hostiles. The child's crying grew louder. The hostile pressed the weapon harder against the boy's head. Now, Heijin shouted. 3 things happened simultaneously. Dong-hyun triggered his hack, causing 4 of the hostiles' weapons to shut down. Sua unleashed a barrage of covering fire, and Taesung took his shot. The bolt passed within centimeters of the child's head and struck the hostile directly between the eyes. The hologram collapsed. The child ran to his holographic mother. The team moved as one. The remaining hostiles, without functioning weapons and facing coordinated assault, went down in seconds. 23 minutes had elapsed. The simulation froze. The holograms vanished. The rocky planet disappeared, leaving only the empty chamber. In the observation deck, silence reigned. Krath stared at his control panel in disbelief. Velthir's expression had darkened. They passed? Someone asked. Technically, Krath said slowly. But their biometric readings show elevated heart rates, increased stress hormones, particularly in the female lieutenant. That indicates emotional compromise. Velthir seized on this. There. You see? Even when they succeed, they do it with anger, with fear. They're ruled by emotion. Crix's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. They completed the objective. Parameters were met. Crix's. The parameters were changed. Heejin's voice cut through the observation deck. She'd removed her helmet and was staring directly up at the viewing window, at Krath. The difficulty was increased mid-simulation. That's not standard protocol. Krath spread his forearms innocently. The test is designed to be unpredictable, to simulate real crisis conditions. It's designed to make us fail. Su'a snapped, her anger finally breaking through. Lieutenant, Heejin warned. Su'a took a breath, forced herself to calm. But her hands still shook with adrenaline and rage. Velthir stood. The test results are clear. Yes, the humans completed the objective, but their emotional readings prove they did so while compromised. Anger, fear, protective instinct, all of these clouded their judgment. We saved the hostages, Bora said quietly. It wasn't real, Velthir said dismissively. In a true crisis, with real lives at stake, your emotions would overwhelm you. You'd make mistakes. People would die. Heijin started to respond, but Crix raised a foreleg for silence. The council will deliberate, Crix announced. However, given the disputed nature of this test, we will offer one final opportunity. What kind of opportunity? Heijin asked, suspicious now. A real mission, Crix said. Not a simulation. Actual lives at stake. If you succeed without emotional compromise, humanity will be granted full membership. And if we fail? Jiwoo asked from the observation deck. Then humanity withdraws its application. Permanently. The weight of that hung in the air. One chance. A real mission. With real stakes. Tae-sung still hadn't removed his helmet. Through the visor, no one could see his face. His hands held his rifle, with perfect steadiness. But inside the helmet, tears ran down his cheeks. Thraxis 7 was a barren world on the edge of council space. Red dust covered everything, and the thin atmosphere required breathing masks for most species. A research station sat in a canyon, built into the rock face for protection against the violent windstorms that swept the surface. 3 days ago, the station had gone silent. 27 scientists and staff. No communication. No distress beacon. The council classified it as a probable pirate raid. Pirates often hit remote stations, stealing research data and equipment before disappearing into uncharted space. The human team stood in their dropship, running final equipment checks. This time, their weapons were real. The enemy would be real. Any mistakes would have real consequences. Intel suggests a small pirate crew. Heijin briefed her team. Maybe 12 to 15 hostiles. Standard smash and grab operation. They hit the station, took what they wanted, probably killed any witnesses. So why send us? Su'a asked. If everyone's already dead. Because if anyone's alive, we save them, Heijin said. And we do it clean. No mistakes. The council will be reviewing every second of our helmet cameras. Donghyun looked up from his tablet, his expression troubled. Captain, something's wrong with the intelligence data. The last satellite image shows at least 40 heat signatures around the station, not 15. Could be equipment malfunction? Bo-Ra suggested. Hopefully. Could be, Donghyun said. But he didn't sound convinced. Tae-sung checked his rifle for the third time. His movements were calm, methodical. He'd barely spoken since the simulation 3 days ago. Through his helmet, his breathing remained steady. The dropship descended through Thraxis 7's atmosphere. The pilot's voice crackled over the comm. LZ. In 2 minutes. Winds are picking up. It's going to be a rough landing. Haijin addressed her team. Remember, we're being watched. No matter what we find down there, we stay professional. We stay in control. Understood? 5 acknowledgements. The ship touched down a half-kilometer from the station. The team moved out into the red dust. Weapons ready. The wind howled around them, reducing visibility to about 50 meters. Perfect conditions for an ambush. They approached the station carefully. The main entrance had been blown open. The metal doors, twisted and blackened. Inside, emergency lights flickered weakly. Donghyun readings? Heejin asked. Multiple life signs, deep in the facility. But Captain, his voice faltered. I'm also reading something else. Biological matter. A lot of it. They entered the station. The first body was in the entrance hall. A researcher, male, probably mid-50s. He'd been shot in the back while running. The blood was still fresh. This had happened recently. Bora made a small sound in her throat. Eyes forward, Heejin ordered gently. Stay focused. They moved deeper. More bodies. A young woman slumped against a wall, her tablet still clutched in her hands. 2 security guards, who'd tried to make a stand, their weapons empty beside them. Each death told a story of panic, of people trying desperately to survive. Sua's jaw clenched tighter with each discovery. Her finger rested near her trigger. Ready. Then they found the laboratory. The door was open. Inside, the scene was worse than anything they'd prepared for. Scientists strapped to tables. Equipment used for torture, not research. The walls were covered in blood. Bora turned away and vomited, her breakfast splattering inside her helmet. Donghyun stood frozen, his hands shaking. Even Sua, hardened by years of combat, looked shaken. Why? Bora whispered. The pirates could have just killed them. Why this? Because someone paid them to, said a weak voice. They spun toward the sound. In the corner, hidden behind an overturned desk, a man lay bleeding. Dr. Young-soo, according to his ID badge, head of xenobiology. He'd been shot twice. But somehow, he was still alive. Dong-hyun rushed forward, pulling out medical supplies. Sir, stay still. We're getting you out of here. Young-soo grabbed Dong-hyun's arm with surprising strength. No, you need to know. The council. They paid the pirates. Set this up. Wanted to see. What? Haejin knelt beside him. Heard them, talking. Young-soo gasped. The pirate leader. Skaresh. He was laughing. Said the council. Paid triple. To make it brutal. To make it impossible for you. Sua's hands tightened on her rifle. They did this? The council set up a massacre to test us? Not the whole council. Young-soo coughed. Blood flecked his lips. Just a few. Ones who want humans to fail. They told Skaresh. You were coming. Gave him 50 soldiers. Triple the intel. Said you'd have. The fury that swept through the team was almost visible. Bora's hands shook. Donghyun's jaw clenched. But Taesung simply knelt beside Young-soo, helping Donghyun stabilize the wounds. His hands were steady. How many hostiles? Taesung asked quietly. 50. Maybe more. They're using the main lab as a base. Waiting for you. Young-soo's eyes were glazing. I'm sorry. I couldn't. Save the others. You did what you could, Taesung said. Rest now. Haejin stood, her mind racing. 50 hostiles. 5 Marines. Impossible odds. Exactly what the council wanted. A scenario where humans would either fail or succeed. Through uncontrolled violence. Sua was breathing hard. Captain. Permission to speak. Granted. I want to tear them apart. All of them. The pirates. The council members who set this up. Every last one who thought this was acceptable. Her voice was shaking with rage. Tell me I'm not alone in feeling this. You're not. Heijin said quietly. I feel it too. So do I. Donghyun nodded. I've never wanted to hurt someone so badly in my life. They all looked at Tae-sung. He was still kneeling beside young Soo, who'd lost consciousness. Yes, he said simply. I feel it too. For a moment, they stood in that blood-stained laboratory, 5 humans facing an impossible situation, all feeling the same burning rage. Then, Heejin took a deep breath. Good. Now that we've acknowledged it, we put it aside. We have a mission. Save any survivors. Neutralize the hostiles. Get out alive. And we do it smart. Captain, Sua said. We're outnumbered 10-1. Then we don't fight fair, Heijin said. She looked at Tae-sung. Corporal, you've been quiet this whole mission. Do you have thoughts? Tae-sung was silent for a moment. Then he spoke, his voice calm and measured. They're expecting us to charge in, to let rage control us. They want us to be the monsters they think we are. What do you suggest? Heijin asked. We give them what they expect, Tae-sung said. But not the way they expect it. Over the next 10 minutes, Tae-sung laid out a plan. It was careful, calculated, and absolutely ruthless. Not ruthless in anger, but ruthless in efficiency. He'd analyzed the station layout, the enemy positions, their probable tactics. He found every weakness, every advantage. Donghyun would hack into the station's systems, taking control of the environmental controls and security measures. Bo-ra would set traps at key choke points, using the pirates' expectations against them. Sua would create a diversion, making the enemy think the humans were mounting a frontal assault. Meanwhile, Heejin and Tae-sung would extract the remaining hostages if any survived from the main lab. It's risky, Heijin said when he finished. Yes, Tae-sung agreed. But it's smart. We use their arrogance. They think we'll come in angry and stupid. We show them what humans really are. They moved into position. Donghyun found a terminal and jacked in, his fingers flying across his keyboard. Within minutes, he had access to the station's core systems. I've got their communications, he reported. They're laughing, Captain. Making bets on how long we'll last. Scarish just told his men to aim for legs and arms. They want to capture us alive. Want to torture us before they kill us, as proof that humans are weak. Sua's grip on her rifle tightened until her knuckles went white. Captain, I know, Heejin said. Stay focused. Bo-ra set her traps with shaking hands, but her work was precise. Pressure plates connected to explosive charges. Tripwires linked to the station's malfunctioning bulkheads. Each trap was positioned perfectly. Sua moved to her position near the main corridor. She took 3 deep breaths, forcing the rage down, channeling it into focus. Then she opened fire, sending rounds down the hallway toward the main lab. The response was immediate. Pirates poured out, weapons blazing. Exactly as Tae-sung predicted. They were confident, casual even. They outnumbered the humans massively. This would be easy. The first group hit Bo-ra's traps. Explosions rocked the corridor. Pirates went down screaming. The survivors fell back, confused. This wasn't how the inferior humans were supposed to fight. Donghyun triggered the environmental systems. Sections of the station sealed off, dividing the pirate forces. Life support cut out in key areas, forcing them to retreat to specific locations. Each move herded them exactly where the humans wanted them. Meanwhile, Heijin and Tae-sung reached the main lab through maintenance tunnels. Inside, they found 4 surviving researchers, huddled in a sealed room. The pirates had been saving them, probably for further torture. We're getting you out, Heejin whispered. They led the survivors back through the tunnels. No glory, no heroic firefight. Just quiet, efficiency. The battle above was going badly for the pirates. Skaresh, the pirate leader, a massive alien with 4 arms and armored skin, realized too late that the humans weren't attacking blindly. They were hunting. Each time his forces regrouped, the humans hit them from an unexpected angle. Each time they advanced, they walked into traps. The station itself seemed to be working against them. Doors sealing at crucial moments. Life support failing right when they needed it most. They're just humans. Skaresh roared. Kill them. Roning. Subscribed. Sighed. Roning. Andin. 1-1. 1-1. But his forces were already reduced by half. And the humans hadn't shown themselves yet, beyond brief glimpses. The pirates were starting to panic. Tae-sung emerged from a side corridor, alone. He stood in the open, rifle at his side. Skaresh spotted him. There. Kill that one. 10 pirates opened fire. Tae-sung didn't move. The shots missed. Dong-hyun had hacked their targeting systems, introducing minute errors that added up to complete misses. Then Tae-sung raised his rifle. What followed wasn't rage. It wasn't berserker fury. It was mathematics. Tae-sung's shots were calculated, precise. Each one found its mark. He moved through the corridor like a surgeon, cutting down enemies with almost casual efficiency. Skaresh charged him personally, roaring in rage. Tae-sung sidestepped, drove his rifle's stock into the pirate's knee, and when Skaresh fell, put 3 rounds center mass. The pirate leader collapsed. The remaining pirates broke. They ran. And the humans let them go, herding them toward the exit. When the dust settled, the station was secure. All surviving researchers rescued. Enemy forces eliminated or fled. 0 civilian casualties in the extraction. The team regrouped at the entrance. Young-soo was stable, unconscious but alive. The 4 other survivors were shaken but unharmed. Bo-ra sat against a wall, her helmet off, breathing hard. Yes, Heejin said. We did. Sua looked at Tae-sung. You were terrifying out there. Cold. Efficient. Like a machine. Tae-sung didn't respond. He stood near the window, looking out at the red dust of Thraxis 7. His hands, hidden by his gloves, were shaking. Inside his helmet, tears streamed down his face. The council chamber was packed. Every seat filled, every species represented. Word of the human mission to Thraxis 7 had spread across the galaxy. The humans had succeeded against impossible odds, and now the council would decide humanity's fate. Heijin stood at the podium again, her team behind her. All 6 Marines in full armor. Tae-sung stood at the back, silent as always, his helmet hiding his face. High Chancellor Crix called the session to order. We have reviewed the complete data from the Thraxis 7 mission. Helmet camera footage, biometric readings, tactical decisions. The Council will now deliberate on humanity's application for full membership. Velthir rose immediately. His reptilian features were twisted, with barely controlled anger. I object to these proceedings. On what grounds? Crix asked. The humans did not complete the mission as intended, Velthir said. Yes. They rescued the survivors. Yes. They neutralized the hostile forces. But they did so with calculation, with cold efficiency. This is not better than rage, it's worse. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Explain, Crix demanded. Velthir paced, his tail lashing behind him. We sent them to test their emotional control, to see if they could maintain composure under pressure. Instead, they showed us something far more disturbing. He gestured at the Marines. Look at them. Standing there, like statues, like machines. Where is their humanity? You complained that we were too emotional, Heijin said, her voice sharp. Now you complain that we're not emotional enough? I complain that you have no middle ground, Velthir shouted. In your history, you are rage-filled barbarians. In our test, you are cold, calculating killers. Which are you truly? Another delegate stood, a being of crystalline energy. Ambassador Velthier raises a valid concern. The human's biometric data from the mission shows suppressed emotional responses. Heart rates remained steady even during extreme combat. Stress hormones were controlled to an unnatural degree. How is this possible? 9. Training, Heijin said. Discipline. We felt everything, but we didn't let it control us. Impossible, Velthier said flatly. No species can feel deeply and act without those feelings affecting their judgment. You must be hiding your true nature. These soldiers must be emotionally stunted, incapable of normal feeling. That's not, Heijin began. Look at that one. Velthier pointed directly at Taesung. The corporal. I've watched him for days now. He has not removed his helmet once in my presence. He barely speaks. He moves like a machine, fights like a machine. He has no emotions. No soul. Just programming. Taesung remained motionless. Inside his helmet, his eyes stared straight ahead. Another delegate joined Velthier's argument. Perhaps humans have two subspecies. The emotional ones, they showed us in their history. And these, soldier variants, bred or trained to be emotionless. That's absurd, Jiwoo said from his seat. But more voices joined the speculation. The chamber filled with theories, each more insulting than the last. Humans were pretending. Humans were lying. Humans were hiding their true nature, whether that was rage or emptiness. They are dangerous either way, Velthier concluded. If they are truly emotional, they cannot be trusted with the responsibilities of full membership. If they are truly emotionless, they are even more dangerous, intelligent predators with no moral compass. We have a moral compass, Heijin said, her voice rising. We have feelings, emotions, all of it. We just choose. Choose? Velthier laughed. How convenient. You choose to show whatever serves you best in the moment. How can we trust beings who can manipulate their own emotions so completely? Creaks raised a foreleg. The chamber will come to order. We will now vote on. Wait. The voice was quiet, but it cut through the chaos. Everyone turned. Taesung had spoken. He stepped forward from his position at the back. Corporal? Heijin said, confused. Taesung walked slowly to the center of the chamber, where Heijin stood. He moved past her, to the very center of the speaking platform, where all eyes could see him. Corporal Taesung, you are not authorized to, Crix began. Let him speak, Velthier said, smiling. I want to hear what this emotionless machine has to say. Taesung stood in silence for a long moment. His hands, encased in armor, reached up to his helmet. He pressed the release seals. There was a hiss of equalizing pressure. Slowly, carefully, he lifted the helmet from his head. The chamber fell silent. Taesung's face was wet. Tears ran down his cheeks, dripping from his jaw. His eyes were red, swollen from crying. His lips trembled as he tried to speak. The delegates stared in shock. You think? Taesung's voice cracked. He stopped, took a shaking breath. Tried again. You think we have no emotions? More tears fell. He didn't wipe them away. I have been crying, Taesung said, his voice breaking on every other word, since we found the first body on Theraxis 7. I cried when I saw the researcher shot in the back. I cried when we found the laboratory, when we saw what they did to those people. His whole body was shaking now. I cried when Dr. Young-Soo told us the council had set us up. I cried during the entire battle. I cried when we extracted the survivors. I have not stopped crying. Velthier opened his mouth, but no sound came out. You want to know about human emotions? Taesung's voice rose. I can still see their faces. Every person who died in that station. I can see the fear in their eyes. I can see the woman clutching her tablet, probably trying to call for help that never came. I can see the security guards who died, defending people they couldn't save. Tears continued to stream down his face. I feel it all. Every death. Every moment of their terror. It sits in my chest like a weight that will never leave. I will carry those images until the day I die. The chamber was absolutely silent now. And the simulation, Tae-sung continued. That holographic child with a gun to his head. You think I didn't feel anything? My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my rifle. My heart was racing. Everything in me screamed to save that child. Even though I knew it wasn't real. He looked directly at Velthur. You think we're emotionless? We feel more than you can possibly imagine. Every mission, every battle, every person we couldn't save, we carry all of it. Then how? Someone started to ask. Because we choose to. Tae-sung shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber. We feel everything. And we choose not to let it control us. Every second of that mission. I wanted to break down. I wanted to rage. I wanted to make the pirates suffer for what they'd done. But I didn't. He wiped at his tears with the back of his hand. Not because I don't feel. Because I feel too much. Because if I let myself give in to every emotion, I'd be useless. I couldn't help anyone. Tae-sung turned slowly, looking at each delegate. You mock our rage. You've built entire narratives about how emotional and primitive we are. You've tested us, manipulated us, set us up to fail. And when we pass your tests anyway, you claim we must be lying. That we must be hiding something. His voice dropped to almost a whisper. But in the silent chamber, everyone heard. We're not hiding anything. This is what we are. We feel everything. Fear, anger, sadness, joy, all of it, all the time. More intensely than you can imagine. And we choose, every single day, every single moment, to remain in control anyway. But that's, Velthir tried to interject. Do you know what it's like? Tae-sung cut him off. To feel such rage that your hands shake, such fear that you want to run, such sadness that you can barely breathe and still you stay calm? Still you do what needs to be done? That's not being emotionless. That's the opposite. That's carrying the weight of every feeling and choosing to bear it anyway. He looked down at his hands. They were trembling. I stood in that laboratory, surrounded by tortured bodies, and every part of me wanted to scream, to break something, to make someone pay, but I didn't. Not because I'm a machine, because I'm human. See, tears continued to fall. We don't rage because we're weak. We don't cry because we've failed. We feel all of it, and we keep going. That's what being human means. Bo-Ra stepped forward, removing her helmet. Her face was also wet with tears. I vomited when I saw the laboratory. I've been having nightmares every night since. Every time I close my eyes, I see their faces. Dong-hyun removed his helmet next. I wanted to kill them all. Every pirate. Slowly. Make them suffer like they made those researchers suffer. Sua was next. I've been so angry since the simulation. Since Thraxis 7. So angry I can barely think straight sometimes. At the council. For testing us. At the pirates for what they did. At myself for not being able to save everyone. Hyjin was the last. She removed her helmet, revealing her own tear-streaked face. I carry the weight of every decision. Every person who might have lived. If I'd done something different. It doesn't get easier. It gets harder. Because every mission adds more weight. But we carry it anyway. The 6 humans stood in the center of the chamber, tears falling, emotions exposed for all to see. You wanted to see if we could control our emotions, Tae-sung said quietly. We've been controlling them this entire time. Not because we don't have them. Because we have too many. Too strong. Too overwhelming. We control them because we have to. Because if we didn't, we'd drown in them. He looked at Velthur. You laugh at human rage. You've never seen it. Not really. Because we've never let you. Every interaction, every test, every mission, we've held back. We've chosen restraint. We've chosen control. His voice hardened. Not because we're weak. Because we're strong enough to choose. Valthier stood frozen, his earlier confidence shattered. Creeks leaned forward. Corporal, are you saying that humans are always on the edge of losing control? No, Taesung said. I'm saying we're always in control. The difference is, we know exactly what we're controlling. We know the depths of what we feel, and we choose, every time, to be better than our worst impulses. He picked up his helmet, held it in his hands. You've tested us. You've tried to break us. You've manipulated us, lied to us, sent us into traps, and every time, we've proven ourselves, not by being emotionless machines, by being human, feeling everything, and choosing to be better anyway. The silence stretched. Finally, Crick spoke. The council will deliberate. As the delegates began to murmur among themselves, Taesung walked back to his team. He didn't put his helmet back on. He stood there, tears still falling, and waited for the verdict. The council chamber remained silent for what felt like an eternity. Delegates whispered among themselves, their expressions ranging from shock to contemplation to shame. Taesung stood with his team, helmet still off, tears drying on his face but eyes still red. High Chancellor Crix consulted with the senior delegates in hushed tones. Valthier sat in his pod, his earlier arrogance completely deflated. He stared at the humans with an expression that might have been understanding, or might have been fear. Finally, Crix raised a foreleg. The chamber fell silent again. The council has deliberated, Crix announced. The vote on humanity's application for full membership will now commence. One by one, the pods lit up with votes. Green for approval, red for rejection. Green, green, red, green, red, green, green. Heejin held her breath. Beside her, Sua's hand found Bo-Ra's and squeezed. Dong-hyun watched the count with intense focus. The votes continued. Some species who had mocked humanity earlier now voted green. Others, who seemed to fear what they'd witnessed, voted red. The count was close. Too close. Finally, the last vote registered. The display showed the final tally. 9 to 8 inches, favor of humanity. By a majority vote, Crix announced. Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted. Some delegates cheered. Others protested. The noise was overwhelming, but the human team stood quietly. No celebration. No triumph. Just exhaustion and relief. Valthier rose from his pod. He descended to the chamber floor and approached the humans. For a moment, Heejin thought he might attack, but instead, he stopped a respectful distance away. I was wrong about you, Valthier said quietly. I thought I understood what humanity was. I was mistaken. Yes, Heejin said simply. You were. I watched your kind's history and saw only violence. I didn't understand that violence was your last resort, not your first choice. I didn't understand the weight you carry. Valthier's eyes moved to Taesung. Corporal, I apologize. I called you emotionless. I called you a machine. I see now how wrong I was. Taesung nodded but said nothing. Valthier continued. I think humanity frightens me more now than before. Why? Bora asked. Because I understand now what you're capable of, Valthier said. Not your rage, your restraint. You feel so deeply, yet you control it so completely. That level of discipline, that strength of will, it's beyond what most species possess. He looked at each human in turn. We feared your emotions would make you dangerous. Now I fear your control makes you even more so. Hyjin stepped forward. Then let me make something very clear, Ambassador. You've seen our restraint. You've seen our control. You've pushed us, tested us, manipulated us, and we've shown you nothing but professionalism. Her voice hardened. Pray you never see what happens when we choose not to restrain ourselves. The chamber fell silent again. Is that a threat? Asked one of the crystalline delegates. No. Heijin said. It's a warning. We've shown you who we are. We are people who feel deeply and choose to act with reason. But don't mistake our choice for weakness. Don't mistake our restraint for inability. She looked around the chamber. We passed your tests. We proved ourselves. But understand this. Every test, every manipulation, every trap you set for us, we will remember. We're granting you the benefit of the doubt. We're choosing to believe that some of you, at least, were testing us in good faith. And if we weren't? Crix asked, genuine curiosity in the translated voice. Then you'll discover what human anger actually looks like, Taesung said quietly. And by then, it will be too late to laugh. The weight of those words settled over the chamber. It wasn't a boast. It wasn't bravado. It was a simple statement of fact, delivered with the same calm control Taesung had shown throughout. Crix descended from the highest pod, approaching the humans personally, something rarely done. Corporal Taesung, may I ask you something? Yes, Chancellor. When you removed your helmet and showed us your tears, was that calculated? A tactical choice? To sway the vote? Taesung considered the question. No. I removed my helmet because I was tired. Tired of hiding. Tired of being judged, no matter what we did. I wanted you to see the truth. And the truth is? That we're human. Taesung said simply. We feel. We hurt. We carry burdens you can't imagine. And we do it anyway because someone has to. Because people need protecting. Because even when the galaxy mocks us, even when you set us up to fail, we still try to do the right thing. Crix was quiet for a moment. We feared your rage. Now we fear your control. You are correct. We are more alien to each other than we thought. Maybe, Heijin said, but we're willing to try anyway. That's what this membership means to us. Not validation, not approval, just the chance to work together, to prove that different species, different ways of being, can coexist. Even after everything we did? Crix asked. Even after, Heijin confirmed. We're not angry that you tested us. We're disappointed you didn't think we'd pass. There's a difference. The formal ceremony concluded an hour later. Humanity was officially welcomed into full council membership. Treaties were signed. Protocols established. Jiwoo handled the diplomatic necessities with quiet efficiency. But the real conversation happened later, in a private chamber where Crix met with Heijin alone. Captain, Crix said. May I speak candidly? Please. Some members of the council did conspire to make you fail. The Thraxis 7 mission, the intelligence was deliberately compromised. The pirate force was hired and informed of your arrival. Dr. Young-Soo was correct in what he overheard. Heijin's expression didn't change, though her hands tightened slightly. Aren't you angry? Crix asked. Furious, Heijin admitted. But anger doesn't change what happened. And more importantly, those scientists died because some council members wanted to play games with human lives. If I let rage guide me now, I dishonor their memory. What will you do? Succeed, Heijin said. We'll be the best council members you've ever had. We'll prove, every single day, that we deserve this seat. And eventually, the ones who plotted against us will have to face the fact that they were wrong. That's a better revenge than anything rage could provide. Crix's mandibles clicked in what might have been approval. You are wise, Captain. Wiser than I gave you credit for. I'm human, Heijin said. We're all wise and foolish, angry and calm, strong and weak. The difference is, we know it. We don't pretend to be something we're not. Later, aboard their ship, as it prepared to depart. Council space. The team gathered in the cargo bay. They'd removed their armor finally. Sitting in their flight suits. Exhausted. We did it, Bo-Ra said, still sounding amazed. We actually did it. Yeah, Sua said. At what cost, though? Those people on Thraxis 7 will be remembered, Taesung said. He was the only one still in partial armor, though his helmet sat beside him. Dr. Young-Soo survived. The other 4 survivors will tell their story. The council won't be able to hide what happened. Should we expose them? Dong-hyun asked. I have all the data. Proof of the conspiracy. We could ruin the delegates who set us up. Haijin considered it. Part of her wanted exactly that. Wanted to drag the conspirators into the light and watch them face consequences. But she thought about Taesung's tears, about the weight they all carried, about what it meant to be human. No, she decided. We won. We don't need revenge. That's the difference between us and them. Captain, Sua said carefully. With respect, they killed innocent people to test us. They deserve to pay. Maybe, Heijin agreed. But not by our hand. We report what we found the truth. We let the council deal with its own corruption. We take the high road. And if they don't punish the guilty? Bo-Ra asked. Then we'll know exactly who we're dealing with, Heijin said. And we'll act accordingly. But we give them the chance first. We be better than they were. Clues. Taesung stood, walking to the viewport. Beyond it, the council station grew smaller as they moved away. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction. They wanted to see monsters, he said quietly. We showed them people instead. Sua joined him at the viewport. Think they learned anything? Some of them, maybe, Taesung said. Krieg seems genuine. A few others showed real shame. But Velthur and his allies? They're just scared now. They fear what they don't understand. Let them fear, Dong-hyun said. After what they did, they should be afraid. No, Heijin said firmly. Fear breeds more problems. We don't want them afraid. We want them to understand. That's what we showed them today, that humans can be understood, that we're not monsters or machines, just people. Bo-Ra stood as well, joining the others at the viewport. Do you think it'll get easier? Being on the council? Working with species that don't trust us? No, Heijin said honestly. It'll probably get harder. We'll face prejudice, opposition, suspicion. Some will always believe we're too emotional, too dangerous, too different. Then why do it? Bo-Ra asked. Taesung answered. Because someone has to. Because despite everything, we still believe it's worth trying. That's what being human means. We feel the pain. We see the obstacles. We know how hard it will be. And we try anyway. The ship's engines hummed, preparing for the jump to faster-than-light travel. In a few moments, they'd leave this sector of space behind. We should be proud, Jiwoo said, entering the cargo bay. He'd been handling the final paperwork, full council membership, access to trade networks, medical technology, military alliances. We secured everything Earth needed. At what cost? Sua asked again. A cost we were willing to pay, Heijin said, and one we'll honor by being worthy of it. The ship shuddered slightly as it entered FTL. The stars outside blurred into streams of light. Taesung remained at the viewport, his reflection staring back at him. In the glass, he could still see the tear tracks on his face. He didn't wipe them away. Corporal, Heijin said gently. Are you all right? No, Taesung said honestly. I can still see their faces. The ones we couldn't save. I'll carry them for a long time. We all will, Heijin said. Good, Tae-sung said. We should. Forgetting them would be worse than any pain we feel. Remembering them, the team stood together in silence, watching the stars blur past. 6 humans, carrying the weight of their emotions, their experiences, their losses, choosing every moment to bear that weight with dignity. What do you think happens next? Bora asked. Heijin smiled slightly. We go home. We report our success. Then we return to the council, and we show them, every single day, what humanity really is. And if they test us again? Donghyun asked. If they push us again? Then we'll show them again, Heijin said. As many times as it takes. We'll prove that our strength isn't in our rage. It's in our ability to feel everything and choose kindness anyway. To be hurt and choose healing. To be angry and choose justice. Tae-sung finally turned from the viewport. They wanted to see monsters. We showed them something far more terrifying. What's that? Bora asked. Tae-sung picked up his helmet, held it in his hands. We showed them people who can feel the depths of rage, of pain, of every dark emotion, and still choose to be good. That's more frightening than any monster, because monsters are predictable. But humans? He smiled slightly, though his eyes were still sad. Humans will surprise you every time. The ship continued its journey home, carrying 6 humans who had proven that the greatest strength wasn't in overwhelming power or emotionless calculation. It was in feeling everything, carrying that weight, and choosing every single moment to be better than the worst thing you could become. Behind them, the council station disappeared into the distance. Ahead lay Earth, and beyond that, a galaxy that was only beginning to understand what humanity truly was. And somewhere in between, 6 people stood in a cargo bay, tired and hurting and proud, knowing that they'd shown the galaxy something important. Not that humans were perfect, not that they were infallible, but that they were human, deeply flawed, profoundly emotional, and strong enough to choose restraint when rage would have been so much easier. The aliens had laughed at human rage. Now, they understood that they'd never seen it. Because humanity's real strength was choosing not to show it. And that choice, that restraint, that burden carried willingly that was more powerful than any rage could ever be.